8 handicap. Looking to get away from the recent miss catching the ball on the heel with the irons and looking to improve overall ball striking for a permanent fix and not just a band-aid. So let's look at the setup. Looks like you're trying to set it up with the ball favoring the toe, but you're leaning over pretty heavy on the toes and have your posture angle set too low. If I draw a couple lines and then just get you up to the top of your backswing, you're going to see how you settle back toward the heels and start creating some space. We'll continue to move you all the way up to the top as the hands draw behind you decently, but just looking at the adjustment that you've made from your setup to the top, I think if I erase this and draw my normal lines, one on the rear end through the spine, and actually bring you back to setup, I think that's where you need to be. So find a way to get back a little bit more on the heels, bend more from the knees to get the butt to push out, and then stand up in this taller position so that when you make your rotations to the top, you actually don't adjust your spine angle at all and can have all this room that you've now generated in your backswing more consistently. So having that space is good. This is a good example of you not thrusting the body in to create a heel shank. I think your major issue is just a big open face. So adjust your setup to make it more consistent with you getting to this impact. And I wouldn't really adjust too much of that for now because we've got something else to really attack here. So back to the setup one last time. The grip, it is tough to see, but I wouldn't say that you're in a very strong position at all. It's pretty neutral to maybe even a little bit weak, which will have that open face bias throughout the swing. So let's get a path line up, and I'm going to flatten it out just a bit to assume you've already made that path change. And looking at the takeaway, it's a pretty low and slow type of move where the frame rate has really got you taking that club back pretty slow in the first movements in the takeaway, but you're keeping your arm straight, and pretty technical move as your right up the line face angle has not been adjusted, so you have not opened up the face to this point. But from P2 on up, where you stop paying maybe as much attention to your face angle in the takeaway, the forearms rotate open, your left wrist gets into a pretty cupped position, and that club face has opened up a good 20-30 degrees at the top of your swing. Now the path isn't bad, and like I said, the body movements I think are fine, but you're just having to adjust for a really open face by trying to keep your hand path close to the body so you don't reach out and shank it, and then you also have to rapidly rotate the forearms to close the face up and get that ball not to be hit with an open face. If you're mixing in total shanks with big blocks and half shanks on the heel, it's most likely that face that's really causing most of the issues. So close it up, and it looks like you were trending that way with what it looks like you're doing in the takeaway, because that's not your traditional roll it open, swing it over the top move. That face is pretty lined up. I can't tell you where it is in the downswing because the video is too blurry, but I can tell you that the forearms have rotated open based on where your hand position is, and then that means you've got to rotate the forearms back closed on the way through. So working on that face is going to be a major thing to get after. So jumping over to our tour comparison to take a look at those checkpoints with the face angle a little bit more clearly. And the setup, more notable knee flex and bend from the waist, standing tall and using those posture lines to see if there's been maintenance to the top. Yeah, pretty much so with the lower body. Upper body's beginning to compress down a little bit, and the extension point just leads back to the starting point. So if there's no variance from address to impact from the spine angle, there tends to be little variance of that club relative to the low point on the ground. But I digress on that. Let's look at the face, what we came here to do. So from P2, our second position in the backswing, looking to match the spine angle with the club face, pretty close, but just generally avoiding any kind of toe up or open of that position in the backswing. Next checkpoint for you, and this is likely where you will begin to start working on your swing, is learning how to maintain a flat angle in the left wrist. It's going to keep that club face angle where it is, also pointed pretty close to the plane, whereas you had that club face filleted open quite a few degrees. So that bending of the face would stem from the bending of the wrist. So there's training aids, there's drills, there's a lot of things you can do, but next time you record your swing, see if you can get that left wrist angle to match pretty flat. Then if you can up the frame rate on your video quality, you can likely see where that face is in the downswing. So we haven't quite reached the P5 where the club's parallel to the ground, but that toe is up, and one more frame. I wish we had something in the middle. It would be about here in that same rate, but it's already beginning to close down through strike. And the fact that the club face already remains more square to closed in the downswing will allow her to generate more speed and clearance from the lower body. So that ability to maintain the spine angle and rotate the body is only going to work if the face is already coming in at the correct angle. Otherwise, the face needs to be manipulated like you do in your swing, and that can really hinder how much rotation you get in your swing. The last thing, if we jump back to you quickly, you said you had to do several warm-up drills just before you can even hit the ball. And that's another sign that you have to get yourself warmed up and get the timing going to get that club around. Taking short swings with the wedge doesn't really work because it sounds like your wedge swing would just keep that face open, and if you're catching the heel with that wedge, that's definitely your issue. So begin by working on the face angle from your P2 on up to the top. Again, here is okay, but monitor a couple positions on keeping that left wrist angle flat, and then also read up on the forearm supination, which can also tend to open up that face throughout the swing. But good luck with those changes. Sendaswing.com.